You've probably seen him online. He's the world's most famous watch expert, known for his totally unfiltered reviews and, yeah, some massive multi-million-dollar deals. But the story of Nico Leonard, it's not really about the luxury. It's about a dream that completely shattered, a total collapse, and a comeback that, honestly, no one could have predicted. This is the story of how that broken dream actually led to a multi-million-dollar empire, not once, but twice.
Right off the bat, Nico himself sets the tone with this really powerful and kinda surprising statement. Fame is the most powerful drug in the world. So this isn't just a simple success story. It's a look at what happens after you make it. And to really understand what he means by that, we've got to go way back to a time before the watches, before any of the fame.
So, let's get into it. The broken dream. You see, before he was the watch guy, Nico's entire world, his whole identity, was tied up in a completely different dream. A dream that ended with a absolutely crushing blow.
And this was it. This was everything to him. Not just a hobby, not some backup plan. It was, in his own words, his one goal in life. Everything, everything, was riding on him becoming a professional football player.
So he goes all in. He moves all the way from Amsterdam to Northern Ireland to chase this dream down. And the way it all fell apart, it was just brutal and so fast. In his very first month there, he gets this catastrophic ankle fracture. We're talking multiple surgeries. And the doctors, they give him this devastating news. He has maybe a 5 to 10% chance of ever playing professionally again. Basically, it's over.
The physical pain must have been awful, but the emotional gut punch was something else entirely. He talks about this moment, the moment he knew the dream was dead, and it was also the first time he'd ever seen his father cry. He just says it was a very harsh moment. I've never felt pain like that before. You realize in that moment, the dream wasn't just his, it belonged to his family too, and he felt like he had let every single one of them down.
So, the dream is dead. What do you do? He has no degree. He's been fired from pretty much every job he's ever had, and there is no plan B. This is where he's literally forced to find a new beginning, to find a new passion in, of all things, precision watches.
And this tells you so much about his personality. Nico fully admits he has a huge problem with authority. He just hates being told what to do. So, after quitting his last job right there on the spot, he takes this little side hobby he had, fixing watches, and decides, yep, this is my business now. And his first storefront? The trunk of his car. Seriously, you just can't make this stuff up.
Now, don't for a second think this was an overnight success. It was the total opposite. He talks about this intense, lonely grind to build his first real store. He says, I sat on this chair for 2.5 years, every single day to build this business. Just day in, day out, in a room with no natural light, just pure, relentless hustle.
And how far did that hustle take him? Well, this far. The most expensive watch he and his team ever sold went for a staggering $7 million. Think about that journey, from the trunk of a car to a $7 million deal. That's an incredible success story. But then, crisis came knocking again.
Just when he'd built this entire empire from absolutely nothing, the whole world just stopped. The COVID-19 pandemic threw him into a brand new crisis, one that brought him right back to the edge of total collapse.
You have to understand his business was built on in-person deals, on trust, on luxury retail. So when all the lockdowns hit, he said it himself, our business stopped completely. Nobody was buying, the revenue stream just dried up overnight. And what was his immediate reaction? Just total despair. All that trauma from his football injury came rushing right back. He felt like a complete failure all over again. He thought, I gave up, I failed again, I'm a disappointment once more, it's over.
But after about a week of just wallowing in that feeling, he made one last desperate move. He called his friend Steven, and he was brutally honest. He laid out the risk. The company is lost, there's $250,000 in the bank, I can't promise anything. And then came the plea, I can't save this alone. Will you join me? It was a total all-or-nothing gamble. And that gamble, it led to this totally unexpected lifeline. Since they couldn't sell watches in person anymore, they needed a new, cheap way to reach people. Their solution was a digital pivot that would end up changing literally everything.
The strategy was just so simple, it was brilliant. Step 1, they knew they needed a low-cost way to market the business. Step 2, the idea? Let's start a YouTube channel. But here's the genius part. They didn't just review watches. Nico's brutally honest, often hilarious takedowns of celebrity watch collections, they just cut through all the noise online. It was authentic, it was raw, and it went viral. That channel single-handedly saved the company and launched him into a whole new level of fame.
But Nico, he's the very first person to tell you this was not a solo win. His experience taught him this incredibly important lesson. No one can scale a business alone. You can dream, but you're not a superhero.
And he constantly gives credit to the people around him. People like Steven, his business partner, who jumped on board when the ship was sinking. Ashley, his office manager and PA, who basically keeps the entire operation from falling apart. And James, the photographer, whose pictures are absolutely essential when you're selling luxury goods online. He knows, deep down, he couldn't do any of this without them.
This massive new level of success, well, it brought its own set of challenges. But it also led to the final and maybe most important part of his journey, finding a new sense of purpose that brought his whole story full circle.
He's really open about this part. He admits he got lost for a little while. You know, I bought the fancy clothes, I chartered the private jets. He was chasing a high. But he says what saved him was his environment. His wife and his close friends, people like Steven, they pulled him back to reality. They told him to wake up.
And it was actually his partner, Steven, who came up with his pivotal idea. He didn't tell Nico to just forget about his past pain. Instead, he told him to reconnect with it.
So his new purpose became sponsoring Larne FC, a local football club right there in Northern Ireland. This allowed him to get back into the sport he loved so much, not as a player, but as a supporter. He could feel that locker room atmosphere again, be part of a team, and give back to the very community that was the backdrop for both his greatest failure and his greatest success. It's just a perfect circle.
So when he looks back on the whole journey, the injury, the financial ruin, the incredible struggle, he doesn't see it as a series of unfortunate events. He frames it all as part of the process. Every tear and every sacrifice brought me to where I am today.
And he leaves us with this final, incredibly raw question. He turns the lens away from his own story and points it right at us. He asks, have you ever looked at yourself naked in the mirror and despised yourself? It's just such a powerful question. A reminder that beyond all the fancy watches and the wealth, the most important valuation of all is the one we place on ourselves.